As we continue to look through our NBA draft series here on the Charts, there's a lot of players trying to vie for that number one pick. In this draft, I would say that there was about a couple of players, maybe 2 to 3 players that really have a really good chance of getting the number one pick. And the reason why is because in this draft, it all depends on where the dominoes fall. Obviously, it depends on when the season returns, but there's a good, strong indication that if it ends the way it does, there's going to be a lot of movement going on in the league, especially when we talk about who could be that number one pick. Like I talked about in a couple of other videos earlier, especially with LaMelo Ball being one of those type of players. Obi Toppin, I don't see him as a number one pick, but maybe another team does. Like I said, there's a lot of players vying for that number one pick. And the next person that we're going to be talking about is, of course, Anthony Edwards. And there's a lot of things to like and there's a lot of things to dislike about Anthony Edwards. But here on the Charts, we're going to be talking about what we really like about him. So remember to hit that subscribe and also that like button. Now, as we continue to talk about Anthony Edwards, the one thing we have to mention is that he is from the University of Georgia, averaging 19 points a game, 3 assists, and 5 rebounds. That was his college career as a freshman, and those are pretty good numbers. For being a number one option, obviously it wasn't looking like Georgia was going to make the NCAA tournament. They probably would have went to the NIT. It's still a cool thing to see that Anthony Edwards was really balling out this season, especially trying to vie for that number one pick. Because like I said, there would have been a player, honestly, we'll talk about him in a different video, that could have been the number one overall pick if not for a college scandal. But nevertheless, Anthony Edwards is looking like more and more each and every day that he's going to be the number one pick. And like I said, there's a lot of things to like and there's a lot of things to dislike. So let's start off with what we like about Anthony Edwards. The first thing I like about Anthony Edwards is that he is a very strong, athletic, already has an NBA body type of build to him. He has a 6'9" wingspan, which allows him to be not only a great offensive player finishing around, amongst the trees, but he's also someone that could be a defensive stopper. This kid has the ability to lock up defenders. He has a great stance. There's a lot of things, like I said, to really like about Anthony Edwards. And being a shooting guard, there's a lot of things that are going to come with that. Some people are comparing him to a young Dwayne Wade, a Donovan Mitchell, but I'm going to talk about a different player that he could be compared to at the end of this video. But let's keep talking about what I like about him. Another thing that I really like about him is that he's a guy that really acknowledges when he makes mistakes and really is a really, I would say, a film rat. Like this, when we talk about that, I watched a video on him on Draft Express, or the guy that does Draft Express when they got bought out by ESPN. Watching him kind of dissect his own film and really understand, like, hey, I really should have went here with this pass, or this is what I really should have done. To me, that is a very good sign and indication that he's going to be a really good player in this league, because the best players like Kobe Bryant, like LeBron James, they all watch film. They all watch film because what they see is that, okay, look, I have to do this and this and this, and this is where the shot's going to come, not only for me, but maybe for a teammate to get an open look. And that's something that I really appreciate about Anthony Edwards as I continue to just talk about him, what I like about him, because like I said, not a lot of players do that anymore. There's a very select few that really understand and dissect their film, because to me, that's the best way to learn. As someone that's someone that loves doing video, especially for the high school team that I coach at, video is very important to me. It's also important to the coaches as well, because it really can dissect not only what an opposing team's offense and defense looks like, it can also look at what the strengths and weaknesses of your team is. And to me, Anthony Edwards, looking at his film, understanding it, not just being like, yeah, I should have done this here, I should have done this there, or having the guy that's hosting the Draft Express kind of talk to him like how he's doing it. He's actually saying like, no, like I really should have done this here, like I should have maybe cut across the court here to make that pass. To me, that is what I really love about Anthony Edwards, is that he is very on when it comes to understanding his faults and understanding his weaknesses. Now, some things that we have to talk about with Anthony Edwards are, of course, going to be his flaws. What are his weaknesses? And to me, one of the weaknesses is that he, as a shooting guard, it's kind of like he has to decide whether or not he's going to be transitioning from being a point guard to being a shooting guard, or being a shooting guard to a point guard, I should say, into the NBA. Because when it really comes to it, being a 6'5" guard, you're really asked to do a lot of things. It's no longer there are set positions and this is what you have to do. Right now, a shooting guard has to also be a point guard as well. And in today's NBA, that's very crucial and that's very vital for any player to be viable in this league. And only averaging about 3 assists a game is probably not going to cut it, especially if you want Anthony Edwards to be the number one guy on your team. Because like I said, he's great offensively. I think he has a great motor offensively and defensively, but the only thing is that there's sometimes the decision making isn't as crisp as I would like it to be. And even watching some film, there's some things that where he should have went here, he should have went there. Obviously, not everyone's going to be playing perfectly, but I've seen too many flaws in his game right now, especially on the playmaking side, for me to be like, okay, this guy's a sure lock fire number 1 pick. Because there's a lot of guys in this draft where you can go, well, maybe this guy will potentially be better. But Anthony Edwards is still in the conversation for that. It's just his playmaking ability. For me, I love to have playmakers on my team, and if you're not being a playmaker, it's kind of a little bit down on my list. And obviously I'm not a GM, I'm not any of those guys, but I do watch the game of basketball. I live and breathe basketball, not only on the high school scene, not only on the college scene, but especially in the NBA, looking at all these playmakers on the court. I mean, we talk about like guys like LeBron James, even guys that don't really get the ball as much, like a Victor Oladipo, who's being compared to, are able to make plays for other people, not only themselves. And that's something that we're going to be continuing to watch as we see Anthony Edwards grow into this new role. Now, another thing that I really don't like about Anthony Edwards is his 3-point percentage, only averaging 30% from the 3-point line. It's in the NBA. It's vital for you to shoot at least 34%, because that is about the average, and only shooting 30% is not very good. It's also something that a lot of people will start backing off from. Not saying that he has a terrible shot. I think the release and the mechanics look great. It's just all about being consistent now, and that's something that he has to work on, and that's something that everybody tries to work on each and every day, because like I said, there's a reason why everyone can't make 50%, half of their shots. There's a reason why it's at 34% as the average. So as long as Anthony Edwards can get to that average, then I think he'll be okay. Now, another aspect of Anthony Edwards' game that I'm going to be really looking at is, of course, his turnovers. Averaging 3 turnovers a game, like I talked about in the playmaking ability, you know, not seeing the right guy at the right time. To me, that is a big X factor into why I think Anthony Edwards could slide in the draft to maybe top 5 and not number 1, is because, like I said, playmaking is a huge thing. And averaging 3 turnovers, which I should have mentioned it before, is something definitely that teams are going to really look at and be like, okay, he's averaging 3 turnovers a game. Can he really be my point guard? Or can he even be a guard on the court? Because like I said, it's a positionless game where it's not the point guard has to make all the reads and plays. No, everybody on the team has to make reads and plays, not just him. And the fact that he only averages, you know, like I said, 3 assists to 3 turnovers, that assist to turnover ratio is not looking very good. And when you average 3 turnovers a game, it's not going to be something where teams are, I mean, especially when you expand it to when there's more minutes being played and the game is a lot faster, there's a lot more stronger players. You can't just score all the time. Anthony Edwards, I feel like, is going to struggle in that aspect, and it's something that he's going to have to learn moving forward. Now, that leads to the next question is, do you see Anthony Edwards as a point guard or a shooting guard? And to me, you know, I do see him trying to transition to that point guard position because, like I said, in the league, you have to be a playmaker not only as a shooting guard, but also as a point guard. So it doesn't really matter about what position he wants to play, but is he going to be a guy that dominates the ball in his hands? Is he going to be a guy that has the ball in his hands all the time to make the right play? And to me, when you're the number 1 pick, that's what you're set to do, especially at the guard position. You're really looked for to really solidify and, you know, facilitate the offense. And if he's not able to do that, then I worry that he's not going to be very effective when it comes to, you know, being a number 1 option on the team. Like, what team is, I mean, maybe if he goes to the Warriors, it might be a different story. But if he goes to the Hawks, for example, he's going to have to be a facilitator, especially when Trae Young is out the game or when Trae Young is in the game. Like, there's a lot of things that he has to work with Anthony Edwards along with Trae Young to really solidify themselves, to get them over the hump, which I think they can. I did a video on the surprise team. They could be a surprise team. Go and watch that video if you're very interested in that type of topic. But to me, like I said, Anthony Edwards is going to be an interesting prospect. And the one player that I could compare him to is going to be Zach Lavine. And I think a lot of people have compared him to him just because of his athletic ability to finish around the rim is strong. The one thing that I do like about him more than Zach Lavine, and I didn't really like Zach Lavine coming out of the draft, is the fact that he is also a defensive player. I think that on the defensive end, he could be a stopper unlike Zach Lavine. I think Zach Lavine is getting there. He's a good player, but at the same time, I just don't think that he has the right tools compared to a guy like Anthony Edwards, who has all the tools, but is also offensively just as good as Zach Lavine. And that's something that I would love to see as Anthony Edwards grows, what he can become, because right now we're seeing Zach Lavine on the Bulls not being able to carry that team. Can Anthony Edwards carry a team better than Zach Lavine? Can he carry a team better than these other players? And that's going to be the interesting question. Like, where does he fall in the draft? There's going to be a lot of teams vying for the number 1 pick. Let's say, for example, the Knicks got him. Are the Knicks going to be interested in him? Or are they going to get a different guy? Are they going to get a James Wiseman? Are they going to get a LaMelo Ball? Are they going to get an RJ Hampton? There's a lot of players in this draft that can go up and down and fluctuate, especially as we don't know you know, the combines and what's going to be going on. There's going to be a lot of very interesting situations moving forward, and that's something that I want to ask you guys when it comes to Anthony Edwards. Can he be a guy that carries an NBA team to a championship, to a playoff run? Can he be the new Zach Lavine, or can he be a Tracy McGrady? Like, what do you guys think is Anthony Edwards' ceiling, and where do you think he's at right now in terms of his floor? And like I said, upside is defense, and I think he should be a top 3 pick. Like, to me, Anthony Edwards screams that he's going to be a very good player in this draft, especially being a two-way player. He's going to be a menace for here on out, but it's just a question of, can he carry a team to the next step? And that's what I want to ask you guys as I continue to just repeat it over and over again, because I really want to know your guys' opinion. So make sure that you leave it in the comment section down below. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. And like I said, we're going to be continuing this draft series. This video might come out today, it might come out tomorrow, I'm not sure when, but we're going to be talking about another player, and that is of course going to be the player that had the biggest scandal, like I talked about in the video. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.
Stu, live,